The ballroom glowed under crystal chandeliers, a sea of whispered secrets and shimmering gowns. In the midst of celebration, Selene's heart pounded erratically. Her eyes locked on the figure across the room, an alpha cloaked in shadows, watching her with unspoken torment. His gaze was fierce yet tender, a contradiction she could not unravel. Suddenly, the joyous music fractured with a chilling confession. "I have loved you all along, even when you did not see me." The voice echoed in her mind, a secret carved into her soul. Around her, faces blurred. Friends, strangers, none held the weight of his silent devotion. She tried to breathe, to steady the storm inside, but the room seemed to collapse, time bending around the unspoken truth. He stepped forward, mocking her without a word, a ritual older than their kind, binding their fates in eternal silence. The crowd's cheer turned to gasps, but Selene's world had narrowed to the imprint searing her skin, his mark, a promise and a curse. "You are mine, Luna," his voice finally broke through, low and possessive. No one could understand the gravity, but Selene knew everything had changed forever. After the crowd's gasp faded into uneasy whispers, Selene's mind raced. How could this be real? The alpha who had watched her from afar, the one she barely knew, now marked her as his Luna. Memories flickered, stolen glances, lingering touches she had dismissed as coincidence. Why me? She wondered, heart breaking between fear and inexplicable hope. The room felt colder despite the warmth around her, the weight of the unseen bond settling deep. Her closest friend, Mira, grasped her arm, eyes wide with concern. "Selene, what's happening?" Mira whispered urgently. Selene shook her head, struggling to speak. The alpha's presence was magnetic yet suffocating, a promise of protection wrapped in danger. She realized this was no ordinary bond. This was the beginning of a story written in shadows and light, one that would unravel everything she thought she knew about love and loyalty. Selene's thoughts spiraled into memories of her childhood, the times she felt invisible, longing for belonging. The alpha's mark was a claim, but also a beacon calling her to a destiny she never imagined. "You have always been chosen, even when you felt alone," the narrator's voice seemed to echo in her mind. She recalled stories whispered by elders of sacred bonds and fierce protectors who loved in silence. Her lips trembled as she confronted the truth. This love was dangerous, hidden beneath layers of secrecy and sacrifice. The moonlight spilled over her face, illuminating tears she refused to shed. She turned away from the balcony, the weight of the mark a constant pulse beneath her skin. Somewhere deep inside, a flicker of courage ignited, a small flame ready to defy fate. The next morning, sunlight filtered through heavy curtains, casting patterns on Selene's bedroom floor. Yet light brought no comfort, only questions swirling like autumn leaves in a storm. The mark on her wrist tingled faintly, a reminder of last night's upheaval. As she prepared for the day, she heard a soft knock. Opening the door revealed the alpha, standing hesitant yet resolute. "I'm not your enemy," he said quietly. His voice held a mixture of regret and fierce protectiveness. Selene's heart clenched. Could she trust the one who marked her in secret? Doubt warred with an instinctual pull. "Tell me why," she demanded, voice trembling but firm. The alpha's eyes darkened. "Because you're my Luna, and I will protect you, even from yourself." The fragile peace between them was a promise and a warning. Selene paced the room, the alpha's words replaying like thunder. She was drawn to him, yet scared of the secrets he kept. "Why did you hide your feelings? Why mark me now?" she whispered, the weight of his silent love pressing on her soul. He stepped closer, voice low. "Because time ran out, because enemies gather, and you are not safe alone." Her breath hitched as she glimpsed the danger lurking beneath his calm. The bond was more than love. It was survival, trust forged in shadowed battles. As the morning light warmed the walls, Selene made a decision, to accept the mark, to embrace the unknown path ahead. The alpha reached out, fingers brushing her wrist, silent, unyielding, a new chapter beginning in a world where love and danger walked hand in hand. Selene stood at the edge of the dense forest, the early morning mist curling like silent ghosts between the ancient trees. The air was thick with the scent of pine and earth, heavy with secrets she was only beginning to uncover. The Alpha's words echoed in her mind, a promise tangled with warnings. "This forest hides more than shadows," he had said. "It's where our enemies gather, and where your true test begins." Her heart pounded, every breath shallow, as she stepped forward into the unknown. The sunlight fought through the canopy, casting fractured light on her path. Each step carried her deeper into a world where danger whispered from the leaves, and trust was as fragile as the morning dew. She glanced back once, the Alpha's steady silhouette framed by the fading village behind them. "You're not alone." His voice broke the silence. Yet, Selene knew the real battle was only just starting. Hours passed as Selene navigated the labyrinth of ancient roots and creeping shadows. Wait. Every rustle set her nerves on edge. Every distant howl sent adrenaline flooding her veins. The Alpha moved silently beside her, a guardian in the wilderness, eyes scanning for threats she could not see. He spoke little, but his presence was a steady anchor in the chaotic silence. "You must learn to listen," he finally said. "Not just with your ears, but with your soul. The forest speaks to those who are willing." Selene closed her eyes, breathing deeply, trying to feel the rhythm of life around her. The faint pulse of the mark on her wrist seemed to synchronize with the heartbeat of the woods. She felt herself shift, awakening to a power older than fear. Somewhere between doubt and courage, she realized that this was more than a test. It was a calling she could no longer deny. Night fell swiftly, the sky turning a deep indigo, pierced by thousands of silent stars. Around the crackling campfire, the Alpha finally spoke, his voice a low murmur blending with the rustling leaves. "There are forces seeking to break us," he said. "Old rivalries and ancient grudges that run deep in our blood." Selene wrapped her cloak tighter, feeling the warmth of the flames and the cold weight of his words. "But together we have a chance," he continued. "If you accept the strength inside you, if you accept me." She looked into the fire, shadows dancing across her face, her mind torn between fear and hope. The bond between them pulsed visibly on her wrist, a glowing reminder of promises made and battles to come. The forest seemed to listen, holding its breath as if waiting for their next move. The morning brought urgency. The Alpha's pack had sent word. Enemies were close, stalking the borders of their territory. Selene stood among the pack leaders, faces etched with battle readiness and wary respect. She felt the weight of the mark more keenly now, a symbol not just of love but of leadership and responsibility. "We fight not just for survival," the Alpha declared, "but for the future we will build." Selene's gaze hardened. Beneath the anxiety lurked a burgeoning strength. This world was dangerous, raw and wild, but within it lay the chance to carve her own destiny. The bond between them had shifted. It was no longer a secret, but a rallying cry. As the sun climbed higher, casting stark light over rugged faces and sharpened weapons, Selene took a breath and stepped forward to meet the challenge. As the sun set on the horizon, Selene and the Alpha prepared for the inevitable confrontation. Every shadow seemed alive with danger, every heartbeat a drum of war. "Tonight, we prove who we are," the Alpha whispered, voice steady but heavy with meaning. Selene's fingers brushed the glowing mark on her wrist, a silent oath to stand by his side, no matter the cost. The wind picked up, swirling leaves and stirring the scent of rain. In that charged silence, two souls bound by ancient law and newfound love steeled themselves. The forest around them held its breath, awaiting the clash that would decide not only their fate, but the future of their world. In the darkening twilight, courage burned bright in Selene's eyes, a fierce light that no shadow could extinguish. The forest fell silent, as if holding its breath. Selene crouched behind a thick oak, her breath slow and steady despite the pounding of her heart. The enemy was near, shadows moving like smoke through the underbrush, whispers of danger slipping past ancient roots. The Alpha stood close, his gaze sharp, scanning the darkness with unyielding vigilance. "This is the moment we've prepared for," he whispered, voice barely audible. Selene's fingers brushed the glowing mark on her wrist, feeling the warmth spread like fire. Every nerve was alert, every sense sharpened to the edge. She wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. She was fighting for their future. As moonlight spilled through the trees, casting long silver beams, the first flicker of movement erupted into chaos. Their world was about to change forever. Suddenly, the silence shattered. Arrows whistled through the night, embedding into bark and earth. Selene sprang into action, her body moving with a speed and grace she barely recognized. The Alpha shielded her with practiced precision, deflecting strikes with a carved wooden shield, his eyes fierce with determination. Around them their pack erupted in battle cries, the forest alive with the clash of steel and shouted commands. Selene's heart surged, not from fear, but adrenaline and purpose. The enemy was relentless, but so were they. Every strike they landed was a promise of survival, of hope. The glowing mark on Selene's wrist pulsed brighter, syncing with the rhythm of the fight. This was no longer just a test, it was a declaration. Amidst the chaos, Selene locked eyes with the enemy leader, a figure cloaked in black, eyes burning with ruthless intent. Time seemed to freeze as they advanced toward each other, blades raised. Selene's breath caught, but the glowing mark on her wrist blazed like a beacon, igniting her courage. The clash was fierce, sparks flying as steel met steel. Each strike tested her strength and will, pushing her beyond limits she never imagined. Around them, the battle roared, but here in this moment, it was just Selene and the shadowed adversary. Every movement told a story of survival and defiance. When the final blow landed, silence fell once more. A victory carved from fire and determination. The dawn crept in, painting the horizon with streaks of pink and gold. The forest was quiet once again, but the air was thick with the scent of smoke and sweat. Selene knelt beside the fallen, her hands trembling slightly as she tended to a wounded packmate. The Alpha approached silently, his face softened by exhaustion and pride. "You've changed everything," he said quietly, voice raw with emotion. Selene looked up, the weight of the battle settling over her like a heavy cloak. The glowing mark on her wrist dimmed, its power spent, but its meaning eternal. Together, they stood amidst the wreckage, united by scars and the promise of a new beginning. The forest, once a place of shadows and fear, now felt like home, a testament to their strength and hope. Later, beneath towering ancient trees, Selene and the Alpha stood side by side, the glowing mark now a steady soft light between them. The forest whispered promises of peace and protection. "We survived because we believed," he said, voice steady and sure. She nodded, feeling the bond deeper than ever, a connection forged in fire and shadow, stronger than any threat. Their world had been reshaped by trials and bloodshed, but it was theirs to protect now. As they turned toward the rising sun, hope bloomed within their hearts. Together, they would face whatever came next, bound by love, courage, and an unbreakable promise. The winds shifted, carrying an unsettling chill through the village. Selene stood at the edge of the settlement, her eyes scanning the horizon with a growing sense of dread. The peace they fought so hard to win felt fragile, like glass ready to shatter. News had arrived, rumors of a new threat gathering beyond the mountains, a force unlike any before. The Alpha joined her silently, his presence steady but heavy. "We cannot afford to ignore this," he said, voice low but firm. Selene clenched her fists, feeling the glowing mark pulse with renewed intensity. The time for vigilance had returned. The future was uncertain, but their resolve was unbreakable. They would face whatever darkness came, together. In the council hall, voices rose in anxious debate. The elders feared the growing darkness, and questioned whether the old ways could withstand this new storm. Selene and the Alpha stood side by side, listening but unshaken. "We must adapt," Selene argued quietly, her words steady despite the tension. "Our strength lies not just in tradition, but in unity and change." The room fell silent for a moment, before a slow murmur of agreement spread. The glowing mark on Selene's wrist flared briefly, a symbol of hope and power intertwined. Outside, the night deepened, but inside the hall, a fragile alliance was born. Together, they prepared to rewrite their fate. Under a sky heavy with stars, Selene trained tirelessly. Her movements were fluid, each strike precise and powerful, guided by the glowing mark's energy. The Alpha watched, silently proud, as she pushed beyond every limit. "Strength is forged in the fire of adversity," he reminded her, voice calm. Selene nodded, sweat mingling with determination on her brow. Every lesson, every scar was a step closer to readiness. Outside, the wind whispered warnings, but here in the clearing, there was only focus and will. They both knew the battle ahead would demand everything, and more. The glowing mark shone steadily, a beacon of the power rising within her. The new threat arrived with the first light, casting long shadows over the land. Armored figures advanced, their banners dark and foreboding. Selene and the Alpha stood at the forefront, the village behind them bracing for impact. "Hold the line," the Alpha commanded, voice ringing with authority. Selene's heart pounded, but her resolve was steel. The glowing mark pulsed, filling her with strength. As the enemies charged, blades gleaming and war cries filling the air, she raised her weapon high. This was the crucible, the moment where legends were born or broken. Every breath, every strike, was a vow to protect all they cherished. When the dust settled, silence enveloped the battered land. Selene stood amid the ruins, breath ragged but victorious. The Alpha approached, exhaustion and relief etched deep into his features. "We endured," he said softly. The glowing mark faded to a gentle glow, signaling the battle was won, but the journey was far from over. Together they looked to the horizon, where the sun rose anew, bathing the world in light. Their scars told stories of sacrifice, but their spirits remained unbroken. This was not the end. It was the dawn of a new era, one they would face united, stronger than ever before. The village began to rebuild, its people united in hope and determination. Selene moved through the streets, offering quiet encouragement to those around her. The glowing mark on her wrist remained faint, a reminder of the power she wielded, and the responsibility it carried. The Alpha stood nearby, overseeing repairs with a steady hand. Their bond had deepened through trials, a silent promise to protect and lead together. Though peace was tentative, their spirits burned bright, fueled by the lessons learned and the strength gained. A new chapter was beginning, forged by resilience and unwavering courage. Night fell softly, and the village gathered around a large fire. Stories of courage and sacrifice echoed, binding the community closer. Selene and the Alpha sat side by side, the flickering flames reflecting in their eyes. "We've come far, but the journey continues," Selene said quietly. The Alpha nodded, his gaze steady. Their intertwined fates had become legend, inspiring all who listened. The glowing mark pulsed gently in the firelight, a symbol of hope burning steadily in the darkness. Around them laughter and song rose, a promise that even in shadows, light would endure. At dawn, Selene stood once more at the village edge, eyes fixed on the distant horizon. The glowing mark shimmered faintly, signaling a quiet but constant power within her. The Alpha approached silently, their steps in sync with the awakening earth. "Whatever comes next," he said, voice steady, "we face it together." Selene smiled, feeling the weight of the past lift slightly. The future was uncertain, but not without promise. Together, they would walk forward, guardians of hope and keepers of an unbreakable bond. The land around them stirred with new life, a world reborn. As seasons changed, the village flourished once again, a testament to endurance. Selene's leadership was quiet but firm, her presence a beacon of strength. The glowing mark's light was subtle now, integrated into her very being. Together with the Alpha, they forged alliances with neighboring lands, building bridges to secure lasting peace. Challenges remained, but the community faced them with courage born from shared history. Every day was a step forward, a chapter in a story still unfolding, where hope was the greatest power of all. One quiet evening, Selene and the Alpha returned to the ancient forest, clearing where their journey began. The glowing mark pulsed gently, a soft light among the shadows. "We've changed, but the bond remains," Selene whispered. The Alpha nodded, placing a steady hand over hers. The forest around them seemed alive, watching and waiting. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they were ready. Together, they were more than survivors. They were legends, carrying the light into the unknown. The night embraced them, full of promise and endless possibilities. Dawn broke with a quiet intensity, the village still stirring from sleep. Selene stood by the riverbank, the water reflecting the soft pastel hues of morning. The glowing mark on her wrist shimmered faintly, as if responding to the new day's promise. The Alpha approached, carrying the weight of both past battles and future hopes. "There is a path ahead, unseen but waiting," he said. Selene nodded, feeling a mixture of anticipation and calm. Together, they prepared to step beyond the familiar, into a world ripe with both danger and opportunity. The forest loomed dense and silent, shadows folding beneath towering trees. Selene and the Alpha moved cautiously, alert to every sound. The glowing mark pulsed steadily, a steady heartbeat in the encroaching dark. Suddenly, a rustle broke the stillness. Eyes flickered in the gloom. They exchanged a glance, unspoken understanding passing between them. Whatever waited ahead was no stranger to their courage. They moved forward, step by careful step, weaving through the tangled undergrowth, guided by an unyielding resolve. In a hidden glade, the air shimmered with unseen magic. Selene stepped forward, her glowing mark brightening in response. The Alpha stood protectively by her side, scanning their surroundings. Ancient stones circled the clearing, etched with symbols long forgotten. "This place holds answers," Selene whispered, voice steady but awed. The wind whispered through the leaves, carrying secrets of the past and warnings for the future. The moment hung suspended, fragile yet charged with possibility, a crossroads in their journey toward understanding and power. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath their feet. The forest seemed to awaken with a roar, shadows twisting into forms both terrifying and beautiful. Selene's glowing mark flared brightly, a beacon of defiance. The Alpha stepped forward, positioning himself as a shield. "Hold steady," he commanded, voice calm but firm. Together they faced the rising storm, a test of their will, strength, and unity. The air crackled with raw energy as ancient forces clashed, shaping the destiny they had dared to chase. When the storm passed, silence returned like a soft breath. Selene and the Alpha stood amidst broken branches and scattered leaves, breath steady but hearts pounding. The glowing mark dimmed to a calm pulse, as if acknowledging the victory and the trials ahead. "We are ready," Selene said quietly. The Alpha nodded, eyes reflecting quiet pride and unspoken promises. Their journey was far from over, but the fire within them burned brighter than ever. Together, they stepped forward into the dawn of a new age, guardians of hope, bearers of light. The village welcomed them back under a sky brushed with soft pinks and golds, the fading light casting long shadows across familiar cobblestone paths. Selene moved through the streets, every step echoing memories of battles fought and friendships forged. The glow on her wrist pulsed, a reminder of the journey that changed them all. Faces turned from windows and doorways, some eyes wide with awe, others wary but hopeful. Whispers floated on the warm breeze, stories of survival and courage spreading like wildfire. The Alpha walked close beside her, a silent guardian whose steady presence anchored the moment. Despite fragile peace, the village breathed a collective sigh. This was a new beginning. The past lay etched deep in every stone, every smile, and every tear shed beneath these skies. Together, they started weaving new stories, fragile threads of hope intertwined with history and dreams yet to be fulfilled. Inside the village hall, the air buzzed with anticipation and relief. Elders, warriors, and friends, formed a circle of shared strength. Selene stood at the center, recounting lessons learned and battles endured. The Alpha stood silently, pride gleaming in his calm gaze. Outside, a soft wind carried an ancient song of unity and courage. The glowing mark on Selene's wrist pulsed in rhythm with the heartbeat of the community, a silent promise bridging past and future. This gathering was a reaffirmation of bonds and a vow to face what lay ahead. Every word wove connection, healing old wounds and igniting purpose. The hall echoed with laughter and tears as the village readied to stand united against the unknown. Night draped the village in a velvet cloak, stars shimmering like scattered jewels overhead. Around a crackling fire, Selene and the Alpha sat side by side, the warm glow illuminating their thoughtful faces. Silence between them held unspoken understanding. They shared fears and hopes in hushed tones, voices soft against nocturnal life symphony. The glowing mark on Selene's wrist pulsed gently, sensing with steady breaths and flickering flames. The village slumbered peacefully, unaware of fragile calm balanced on dawn's edge. Wrapped in warmth and quiet strength, they found solace and resolve. Their bond, born of trials and trust, was a beacon guiding them through the storm ahead. Together, they dared to dream of peace while ready for battle. Suddenly, a sharp cry shattered the night's stillness. A piercing alarm sent tension rippling through the village. Selene and the Alpha sprang up, muscles coiled, senses sharpened by countless battles. Shadows flickered beyond firelight, swift and menacing, whispers of danger and uncertainty. The glowing mark flared brightly on Selene's wrist, a vivid beacon warning of threat. "To the walls," the Alpha commanded, voice calm and fierce. The village stirred instantly, hearts pounding as the past's threat challenged fragile peace. Quiet was gone, replaced by survival's raw edge. United, they stood ready, guardians on battle's brink, spirits unyielding, eyes set on dawn. Dawn broke over the village like a promise fulfilled, soft light, spilling over faces hardened by struggle, but shining with fierce hope. Selene stood on a raised platform, arm lifted high, the glowing mark on her wrist, shining like a beacon calling forth courage. The Alpha stood beside her, voice ringing strong, rallying their people to stand firm. Wearied by long nights and endless trials, their resolve was unbroken. Every soul gathered, elders, warriors, children alike, felt the weight and power of this moment. The battle ahead would test limits and bonds, but their unity was unshakable. Light and shadow intertwined as the village breathed collective strength. More than survival, it was a declaration. They would write a new chapter with courage, sacrifice, and unyielding spirit. Together, they faced what came next, bound by hope that guided them home.